If
That's
only the behind the scenes was.
fine.
Hello, everyone. I am Kiana Shaw,
And I am therapist Danielle.
and we are the Real on Parenting.
Yes.
And there's always laughing going on before and after, during, right? Like, all right. So Danielle, and this
Yeah.
was kind of a not like an off the wall topic. Like it just kind of came up, right? And so we didn't have time to just kind of prep for today.
Going with the
But
flow, but it's gonna work.
we're going with the flow. And I think that this is interesting. We're going to be talking about co-parenting, right? And Danielle and I are on different sides of co-parenting, right? Because she is a bonus mom, right?
Yeah.
And my daughter,
Yes.
my daughter's father, is in a long-term relationship. And so we're going to talk about, just some real things that come up in co-parenting and how we would both. And the interesting thing is that we have never had this conversation with one another,
We
right?
have we
And,
haven't.
and so I'm excited because I think that part of it is perspective, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes, as the mother of the child, I can be like, wait, hold on. Right? My daughter said, oh, such and such is gonna take me to get my ears pierced. No, she's not. Right.
Yes, yes,
I'm sorry
yes,
I'm
yes.
sorry she got your hopes up high, but
Right.
it's not happening.
Right,
Because I
right,
feel like that's the conversation that you need to have, that her father needs to have with me, right? Like
right,
this is, and
right.
it's not that her ears haven't been pierced, it's that the holes keep closing, right? And
Mhm.
so it's something going on with her ear that at three piercings, it's still closing again. And the earrings
Yeah.
stay in for over a year and it's still closing. Something's going on. So no, we're not doing it again. Right.
Mhm.
And
Yeah,
so
yeah.
there are things like that. And so I'm sure you have, your own experiences
That
as
I
the bonus
do.
mom. And I like the term bonus mom. It's something I've been saying for years because I
Yeah.
think stepmom has a really nasty connotation to it a lot of times, right?
It does. It does.
Um, and there's also the fact that my bonus mom is so freaking amazing. Right?
Mine
I
is
don't
too.
like
Yeah,
referring to her as
too. Yeah.
stepmom, right? And so
Hmm.
we both have amazing bonus moms who have been there for us, who are a part of our lives, who are amazing grandmothers to our kids, right? And so this is going to be an interesting conversation. So if you are a mom listening to us
Yeah.
or a bonus mom listening to us, this may be something to share. Listen to it first, right? Just in case you like, nah, nah, nah.
Right,
But
right, right. And I will
but this,
also say if you are in a relationship with someone who has kids, you may not necessarily be married, but you are in that role,
yes,
take a lesson as well.
absolutely, absolutely. Because you may find out some things, right? And so let's get started. So I want to share a story. So years ago, I was dating someone who had a daughter, who has a daughter, and we're still friends today. And I had a one bedroom apartment, right? And I was just like, she could just sleep in the middle, right? And he was like, her mom is not with that. And so, like, that was my first experience of dating someone with a child where it mattered, right? And so I remember calling up my sister, and she was just like, girl, heck no. And I was like, what
Right.
is the big deal? And she was just like, no. She was like, I don't want my daughter sleeping in the bed. And I didn't consider it from that perspective. I was just going, I ain't gonna do nothing to your kid. Like, he be over here all
Yeah.
the time. Your
Yeah,
kid is here
that's
all
a
the
no no.
time. Like, I'm supposed to
Correct.
just let them sleep on the
Yes.
floor, and I'm not sleeping on the floor, right? So it's like if it's one bed. And so my sister was like, "Well, then you sleep on the couch. If it means that much where you guys are together like that,
Yeah.
and you're thinking of her, then you sleep on the couch." And I was just like, "Don't nobody sleep on my couch. I don't allow sleeping on right." So I'm
He
like
wasn't
coming
ready.
from
He
this,
wasn't ready at that time.
I was not ready, and
Yeah.
it became a thing to me, like so she just can't spend a night because and I did not, I promise you, I did not get, and I was in my early 20s, right? And
Hmm.
now I would go, okay, so let's figure out sleeping arrangements, right?
Right.
But I like at the time, I just did not understand it. I just thought it was dumb. I get it now, right? As you get
I'm glad you do.
older, right?
Right.
You said you're
Right.
glad I do.
I'm glad. I'm glad you do.
Right, because
Yes.
here's the thing. I wouldn't put Kayla in the middle of me and
Right.
whoever I'm dating, right?
Yeah.
And so it's like, and it's still the same dynamic, a
It
woman, a
is.
man, and a baby, right? And so
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
do understand it now. I didn't, because I was coming from the perspective and the immaturity and the lack of knowledge, right? And
You want to
so at that
explain that.
time, my perspective was very different. A lot of women in their 20s are probably having this same conversation if they're dating someone
Yes.
who has a
Which
kid. And so I think that
mhm.
these types of conversations have to be had.
They do. They
So,
do and they should. And although they're uncomfortable and they're very easy to not have, by way
right.
of just trying not to talk about it or not, I would say cover all the bases of what actually needs to be acknowledged and discussed. It is
Hmm.
a staple. I would say it is a requirement in regards to just where that relationship is going and the reality and the hard truths of it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So share a story. Share one of your stories.
Oh, I got many, but I would say as a bonus mom, I mean, granted, yes, I'm a therapist, but also I'm a person too. I'm a person
Uh-huh.
first. I'm Danielle, and there we all have our own things, and I am very much the scheduler. I am very much the task oriented person, so I do things in decency and in order, as they
if
say.
if you're
However,
listening to this, um, just know that I am absolutely agreeing with her emphatically, that she is very task oriented. If it is not on her
yes,
to-do list, it does not get done.
it's not. It's not. And then when that real parenting hit, if it ain't on there, sometimes if it is on there, it's a possibility it ain't getting done. But um, the different communication styles was very, very in your face, in regards to how I communicated, how my husband communicated, and how his ex-wife communicated.
Okay.
I was in a position where we raised our kids, through their 4 years of high school. They lived
Mhm.
with us. So there was a lot of uncomfortable conversations, frustrating conversations related to the kids. And it can be something as simple as activities, on the
Right.
weekends, we're going to do this or we would like to do this. And their mother, feeling otherwise in regards to if it's our weekend, if it's not our weekend, and just scheduling things. Um, and I'm picking my words. I'm being
Carefully,
specific with
right?
my words,
Because there's still a
but
relationship there. Like there's still
right,
kids.
right, right. That's still being worked on, even though the kids are grown. But I'm all for a healthy relationship.
Absolutely.
Believe me, I'm not saying kiss nobody ass. That's not what I'm saying. I'm all
Okay.
for a
Okay.
healthy relationship. So healthy sometimes just is being cordial. And at the end of the day, it's
Right.
also just being mindful related to, at the end of the day, that's their mom. So I never want to speak ill of any. I'll speak the truth, but I never want to speak ill of anyone in any type of limelight.
Right.
But there were multiple, heck, thousands of situations where we found ourselves in where it's like, okay, so what are we doing? Because you said this, and because you said this, and I wrote it down. And when I write it down, that means that I wrote down what you said, not what I made up. And so now you're trying to flip it. So what are you doing? Because like stop. So and sometimes it ended out great and sometimes it did not. It wasn't always a
Right.
pretty ending in the end. And there was that part of my husband and I, we had to be on the same page. We didn't always have to agree, but we had to be on the same page in regards to what we were doing with the kids,
Mhm.
um, events, things of that nature. And if we weren't on the same page or we didn't agree, I should say, then we would have that discussion on what are we agreeing on? What do we agree and
Right.
we're rolling with that? So yeah,
And
those
it could be
were
difficult. So,
no, it's
um,
very difficult. It's not an easy thing, not easy whatsoever, because it's not about you, and you have to keep everybody into perspective. It wasn't about Danielle.
And we're
Even though I
going to
wanted
talk
to
about that,
say
because
F it
that's a
many times, but it wasn't about me. So keeping that awareness and that insight in, we'll say, on your frontal, because that has to be your reminder as you're having these uncomfortable conversations.
absolutely. Absolutely. So I want to go back, because you mentioned the communication. You and your husband having to be on the same page, having to communicate, right? And here's the two perspective, because she's probably looking at it as, these are our kids. I've said many times to Kayla's dad, because he'll be like, well, we'll ask such and such, right? I'm purposely not using their
Sure.
names.
Sure.
And I would be like, I don't have no kids with her. So I'm not asking her. I'm talking to you. You are the person I have this child with. Now, I am aware that she does a lot, and she's very helpful, and she, you know what I mean? I don't like feeling as though he's just like, y'all work it out, because I don't want to be a part of the decision making. I don't like, I'm like, no, 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 no. Because I also feel like sometimes when it's constantly, you talk to me, I talk to you, then people start feeling entitled to their feelings, and they start feeling like they can make decisions that I feel like they can't, right? And so that can bring in a lot of feelings, right? People
Sure.
get emotional
Sure.
because,
Yes. Yes.
well, I
Yes.
live here, and I get that, but I don't have children with you. And so I want to
Right.
communicate with this
Right.
person, and then we or he can communicate with you. I don't mind that.
Correct.
And it's not even about just not wanting to communicate with her. It's about, wait a minute, because she feels this way and I feel that way. So let me explain to you, and she can explain to you. But at the end of the day, top decision belongs here, right? Like there's an order. There's me,
Yeah.
then
No,
there's you, then
there
there's a
it
third person.
is.
And I also felt like, because when I was in a long-term relationship, I never made him go speak to that gentleman, right? Like I was never like, oh, you got to talk to him because it is. That was never a thing. I would never even think of that. So no, I don't want to talk to somebody else. I want to talk to the person that
Right.
I had this child with. And if we are not mature enough to have the conversation, that's a problem in and of itself. Like get on the maturity level, because this is where I'm coming from. And that can be very difficult, because when communicating about issues with your children, like you legit like need answers. Like it's not something that you're making up. You know. So whether it's coordinating schedules or discussing parenting decisions, discussing fun decisions, right? Like everything isn't a parenting decision, but some things it's like, wait a minute. So I wanted to do this, and now you guys are doing it. Okay, sometimes you just got to take the L. But
you do.
Right. And that's just reality, because he gets to parent too. Like I can't monopolize like, oh, it's going to be this way, right? Whether it's at my house or his house. Because there may be things that we're like, wait a minute, I don't like this. This needs to stop, right? It could be because of phone usage. Right. Like we have different phone rules. So that was something that he asked me. He was like, what's your rule about this? What time do you say she has to turn on this phone, on the weekends? And I remember, and this was just a couple of weeks ago, and I said, put me on speakerphone, because she was asking me, right? And so I said, put me on speakerphone. And I said, so here's my rules, but whatever daddy says for his house goes.
There you go.
And now she hears it and he hears it. And then I don't even know if the other person was there, but my thing is, my daughter and him need to have a clear understanding, and then we can go forward with the other people. Just who we're dating. I'm not being dismissive.
You brought up something really, really great in the fact that.
But hold on, real quick, because I don't want this point to get lost. I'm not being dismissive of her by saying other people, right? Because she is very much a part of our lives. My daughter loves her. Like she is very much in this situation, and so I don't want anyone to go, oh, she's calling her the other people. Like I'm specifically not using her name. And so like for my own brain, I gotta like keep it separated. So I just want to say that, because I don't want nobody writing in. Like I don't need no emails about being disrespectful.
Right. Thank you for clarifying so that we all understand. Okay. But with that, with you stating to have your daughter put you on speaker, there's that part of the kids need to hear that the parents have communicated and the parents are hearing the same.
Absolutely.
Because at the end of the day, the kids are still going to be the kids.
Right.
They're trying to get what they want. But by whatever
And
means that it
manipulation
is for
plays a
them,
part.
they're trying to get whatever do they want. And a big part of that is manipulation. Because kids gonna be
Absolutely.
kids, okay? How great they are, they're still a child. But also the fact that you mentioned that these are my rules in my home, but whatever daddy's rules in his home is, that's what those are when you're with him.
Right.
And
Now, but that's not a cookie cutter situation, right? Because
right. I was just about to say that. Also, I was about to say in regards to that situation, in regards to the
listen,
phone.
because I'm on it.
Yes, because
Because if I said no.
right, exactly. So there are many, multiple thousands. There are going to be a variety of situations and circumstances that are going to look different. There isn't any book, if it is a book out there telling you what to do in regards to every single thing, just know that's a lie, because everybody's family dynamic, relationship dynamic is different. Is totally different. When my children were younger, it actually was flipped, where the mother of my children was always reaching out to me and not my husband.
Okay.
And my response to that was, I am not the parent. Do I play the parent role? Yes. However, legally making any type of decisions, that is not me.
Right.
So you need to speak to their father.
And the other thing is that you were married to him, right? In this situation, they are not married. And so I've struggled with sometimes, I have struggled with, do I respect this when you not even, like, you ain't even care enough to marry, right? Like, not care enough, but like, that was a big thing.
Sorry,
like,
I got that too. But
I was going kind of like, she's not your wife, she's just a girlfriend, right? And that, even though it's long term, like, to me, that meant something. You know what I mean?
No,
like, I
I would say
understand
that
now.
It
Right.
does.
And I understand now because they live together. It is a long-term partnership. That I understand that they see it differently. And so I've forced myself to approach it differently. Right. And that's a big thing, because I really did feel that way. Like, nah, right. But I also grew up in a situation when my parents separated. My dad's girlfriends, right, whoever he was dating at the time, they were absolutely respectful to my mother, because my father did not tolerate any level of foolishness, right? Like, you will not, like, one, you're not going to put his kids in a situation where they're uncomfortable. Two, you're not going to make his kids choose between their mom and their dad. Three, you not going to make this lady take me back to court. Because that was that was a possibility. And so I also have that dynamic where I watch this play out with my own parents, and my parents never had issues with the other person, right? My mom could pick us up and it was never an issue. They were very respectful. My mom and my bonus mom get along amazingly. It's like, that's not an issue, So I think that all those things play a role, and I also think that the parent in the middle of the situation, like if it was like my significant other and my daughter's father, it's my responsibility to say, hey, this is what it is. And my ex and I talked about that. We had a conversation once, and he was like, well, one of the reasons why we get along so well is because you demanded that from me in the beginning. And I was like, what are you talking about? And he said, you said I can't be with someone who can't get along with him, because he and we don't always see eye to eye. I can't have somebody that charges the emotional situation. I need somebody that can diffuse it. Right. And I was just like, I didn't even remember having that conversation, but okay. And he was like, so it was kind of mandatory. I knew that I had to approach this, with a level of maturity, and they got along great. Matter of fact, when we broke up, Kayla's dad was just like, what you mean? Like, it was like they bromance had ended. And I was like, let's stay together. Like, but it was that level of communication. But as the person in the middle, I had to demand it on both sides. Like, you're not going to disrespect either one.
Right. And just being very specific and clear. That's a
Yes.
major thing too. Because I would say that, like for me, I was raised only by my mom. My
Mm,
father was no parts of my
that's
childhood.
brilliant.
If you want to call it sprinkle 3 times within 30 years and figure out the math.
Oh,
So
wow.
as a only child raised by a single mother, I never saw that father um, figure, but also that role played out within the household. And so, as even just with being married, that's a whole other thing. Um, even just
Right.
dating, there were things that I had to address for myself. And within that, played a part into parenting. Because anybody that know my mama, what she said, it was. And so there
Hmm.
was no need to ask somebody else. And I had to really be aware of, as parenting and co-parenting, I said what I said. However, there was that communication factor in regards to checking in with my husband on what are we deciding, because it was I don't want to say elephant in the room, but a very elephant in my life related to having that understanding and that awareness of
Hmm.
how I had learned to function without a father figure in my life. And my husband been very present from day one. Even we're
Right.
dating, he's always been an active father. That never turned off or on. That's just what he does, as he should,
Who
because we
he
would not be
is.
married
Right.
if he didn't. So there's that part of, when you are in a relationship, especially if you have children with anyone that you're no longer with, you're going to default be in a role of, if you want to call it's still co-parenting, whatever role that you have, it is still a level of co-parenting. And
Hmm.
you have to keep all those entities, you got to stay aware of that. It ain't for you to like it, okay, but it is for you to stay aware of it. So the communication, I don't even want to call them well, I guess you can call them the conflict. You're not going to always agree. I'm pretty sure everybody can agree that you're not going to agree, but however, a not seeing things on the same page doesn't have to result in a fight. It doesn't
Right.
have to result in it needs to be in your way. No, there can be, and there has to be communication on, okay, what are we going to decide upon given this specific situation regarding these circumstances.
Okay. So, because you brought up conflict, and I want to move to that point, but what is the solution for, or maybe not solution, but what are some tips that we can give on on communicating in co-parenting? Like, what did you find were the most effective ways to
Oh,
communicate?
things I tell my clients, but no. um, I'm really
Listen, we
big
for this
on,
free therapy. Let's go.
hey, but I'm really big on, I like scripting, and it's not to literally follow a script, but there are certain phrases, certain wording, let me say that can be a little bit more receptive versus saying it another way. And it's like, I ain't doing that. So there's that part of where it can, and I would throw out a couple. If your ex,
Right.
because we got a whole bunch of rows in here. So
Parenting
if you're,
partner. Got it.
thank you, there you go, your parent, because I hadn't coffee yet. So if your parenting partner, let's say, is down to scheduling, there's always some type of spat or confusion or whatever related to you guys scheduling events or having events for the children or for your child. Um, and I'm gonna say this too, you may already do this. Okay, because everybody say I do that. Okay, you may already do this. Okay, we already got that. However, adding some tweaks may be helpful. So putting out there, it could be an ongoing thing. So let's say it's a pattern thing.
Hmm.
That's what the situation I was in. And so I reached out. It was like, hey, such and such. I'm just reaching out. We have some events that possibly want to schedule for the kids, wanting to make sure it doesn't conflict anything that you have in mind. Did you have any things scheduled or planned for the month of such and such, or for the weekend of such and such? And I kept it kind of blanketed like that, because at
Hmm.
the end of the day, that person is who that person is, and we accept how she functions. So
Right.
she didn't need no specific dates or time. No, we just kept it vaguely. And if that person says no, let's say it says yes, then the obvious next question is, sure, what dates, did you have in mind so we can schedule around that?
Which is fair.
Right. Right. So that when all the dates and times was said and approved and confirmed, when the weekend or that date actually showed up, and then there was a problem, because there was, then it's like, and remember, I take notes. I had the receipts, as we call it. So, and then not to say that we won, but it's more so related to, this is what you said, and based off of what you said, we scheduled and made arrangements accordingly around that. And
Right.
and granted, how much of an ass the person wants to be is on them, but it got to a point that over time those spats start to decrease, because she saw that I was very consistent with that. You can try to pull the shit up. It's not happening. So so that over time, and it wasn't an immediate thing. No, you have to be consistent. It does not mean that I was always very calm, cool, and collect. However, I portrayed that way over text, you know what I mean, over communicating.
Right.
Something else is that the phrase, it'll be helpful if, and it'll be helpful if, and you plug on whatever that you need on the end to that. But I always say, it's not a story that you got known to that. It's not a novel. It's not for you to rope a person in to, no, it's just, it would be helpful if you, I'm trying to give an example because I go with examples, but it'd be helpful, or let me say this, it is helpful. So, because I like to pull from strength base.
Right.
It is helpful when you do reach out to me just to confirm like what we talked about, wherever is still happening. Or it was very helpful when you had a last minute change and you let us know that in a week prior, and we were able to work it out and it was cool. So that can be an aspect as well, as pulling from those strengths, even though they may not be often, but pulling from the fact that somebody did something that obviously was helpful to the situation, because within that it shows that you're not trying to always comfort it.
Absolutely.
And also kind of starts to lay the foundation that you guys can be okay. Every time you guys interact, it doesn't have to be a spat or have to be like side-eyeing or any of that. No, it shows that you can be a very mutual person. So those are a couple of the tidbits that I typically share, but I personally use myself in regards to the communication and the scheduling aspect.
So I'm going to say this because one of the things that I discovered over time was that the girlfriend, his girlfriend, did not like us communicating. Like, she wanted to be in the middle, right?
Okay.
And from what
that sounds like that's a her thing, but okay.
Right, it is. So what I
Yes,
had to understand was not so much, oh, that's just who she is, but I also had to understand she has never seen what I've seen, right? She did not have this type of dynamic where I was able to watch my parents go through it, right? I was also able to see other relationships with maybe cousins and their parents, and because you, as a little kid, you get to hear
right,
conversations.
yes,
So
yes.
I knew what I did not want, right?
Right.
I think that as individuals, everyone needs to understand how the other person communicates so that they can communicate with them better. The other thing is, I think that at some point, as a stepmom, a bonus mom, the girlfriend, the whatever, right? The stepdad, the bonus dad, the husband, the wife, everyone has to understand there are only two people who made that child. So even if you guys are married and you are going, well, we are one, I get that. But your seed, your egg, was not a part, right? And so you have to default
Right.
to
No
allowing
parts. Right.
these two
Sure.
people have to be able to communicate, and for me, I was going, he and I need to communicate because
Yeah.
we need to model effective, because our daughter may be in this situation in
Right.
15 years, 20 years. So
Yeah,
we
that's a
need
whole
to
nother
model
podcast.
this.
Yes, right, right.
Right. But
Yeah,
and I'm big on that. I want to show her how she
correct.
should be communicating. She
As you
never
should.
hears
Correct.
me speak negatively of her dad. That is
Yeah,
intentional because I feel like my negative thoughts should never be conveyed to our child. And
correct.
so when I'm communicating, I'm trying to keep that in mind. If
Hmm.
I get upset, I'll go, you know what? I don't have time for this right now. I can't have this conversation, right?
Yes,
Not
yes.
like I don't
Good
have time for
job.
y'all.
Yes,
I
yes.
I don't have time for this conversation. I can't have it effectively, right? Because they may have said something that took me over the top. And so
Right,
I'm just like, okay, how do I end this conversation without my
right,
daughter hearing me be disrespectful, right?
right,
So all these
right.
things considered, my stance is still because this is who I have a child with. You got to
Hmm.
step back and give us a moment to communicate. We're not
Yeah,
dating. He can't never come back this way. Like not
right.
even with a note signed in the blood of Jesus. Like you understand? I'm be very defiant in that moment. It got to be Jesus because Jesus would never. Okay. So and
Okay.
that's the other thing. Like if even if we decided to be back together, there's nothing you can do about that. So get you some sleep. You understand what I'm saying? Because
Yeah, that's why I said that's a her thing. So
right. And
yeah.
when your thing as the person, not I hate to say the outsider because that that just seems dismissive, but for
Sure.
lack of a better word right now, I'm going to say the outsider, meaning you're the person, it wasn't your egg or your seed, right?
Right,
As the
right,
outsider, you got to step back and trust your partner to come back and communicate with you. You have to
right.
step back. You can relay your all your thoughts to your partner. And that's the other thing, because on the flip side, my ex told me, you don't know what he's dealing with at the house. He's gonna make the house peaceful. That is a man thing. What is gonna make this the most peaceful thing where I lay my head and where I get my cuddles, for lack of a better word?
Right.
And so I had to approach it differently because I'm going, I don't really care about your cuddles. But I definitely understand that that's the side you're going to side on. So let me come to you with the facts, right? He's a very facts oriented
Right.
person. Here are the
Mhm.
facts, not my feelings. This is
Right.
what's going to help
Correct.
her grow
Correct.
into an amazing young woman. And so
Hmm.
I need her to understand X, Y, and Z. And then he usually is like, okay, I get that. And because we are very different women, right? Our style of being a woman is very different.
Hmm.
That just is what it is. And I think that's a conversation for another podcast. But how you are as a woman, right? I'm never gonna go out with a bonnet on my head. I'm never going outside in pajamas. You know what I'm saying? There are things that I
Right.
just don't do. And I'm teaching my daughter because for me and my household, this is
Right.
what works. So if I see like if it, and I'm not saying she is, I'm saying if she's the type of person that doesn't mind pajamas outside, that doesn't mind bonnets. Okay,
Yeah.
now I got to
And
go
that's
back to
her.
him. Hold on. Let's talk about what being a lady is. Let's talk about my vision of a lady and who I'm raising her to be.
Right.
You don't get to dictate that because she ain't the son, right? If you were
Right.
as a man saying no, this is what it takes to raise him into raise our boy into a man. I would have to step back. Do that for me. This is what it takes to raise our girl into a woman and a productive citizen who makes integrity based decisions. Let me run this, right? As the outsider, right? No sperm, no egg. You got to step back and let us have
Right.
that conversation. Now you can go talk to the sperm all day,
Right.
but when he come talk to the egg, you got to fall back. So there's that. All right. So I like that. I like that you were able to give some good tips on that. So are we? Look, I don't even know how long we've been podcasting,
Yeah.
but we're
No.
gonna keep
No. So
going.
we need to go into to the part two because there are some things that you mentioned that I do want to I'll say address like you in trouble. No, that like that I do that I do want to shed more light on in regards to that decision making because I was the one saying that that's a her thing. And I had to stop in my head. Then I was like, oh no, that's a them thing. Because and I say them as far as their relationship, but
Mhm.
also there's that part, the moving parts that we always speak of is that impacts the parenting role or the co-parenting. So it's like,
Absolutely.
okay, she and I'm saying she but not she as being specifically her as well. But we
Right.
all have our own things. We all have
Yes.
our own things that we as an individual need to work on. Whether you acknowledge it or not, we all got something, okay? So then something that you shared was that's a her thing that she needs to work on.
Right.
And her individual thing impacts her relationship with your child's father, their relationship.
Right.
Within that, that's a them thing. They need to address that. But if they choose not to address it, I mean, has you have as mom, you have no say so in regards to their relationship. However, when it trickle down, because it's gonna trickle down, then
Right.
that's when you said what you said, which is totally fine. Um, and so there's that part of when you mention a man is going to what you say, choose peace, what'd you say?
Choose peace
Be the
in his
peace.
household. Yeah, because he
Yes,
want
okay.
peace and he want to get a piece. So I gotta be mindful because he can't have a piece of me, right? I ain't giving up no pieces. So we
Hey, right.
so I understand that he is choosing the peace in his household and to
Right,
have peace whenever he wants the peace, right? So
right. Girl, we need to have a jingle, but that's a whole other podcast of the pieces. But anyways, so but with that being said, there's that aspect of I don't want to say what's not obviously being addressed, but the ending result of things.
mhm,
So, and what I mean by that, they're in a long-term relationship. There's things that each of us have as individual person that we accept and we don't accept, or that we feel is a thing or a
absolutely.
non-thing. And whatever that case may be for him, at the end of the day, he still is in a relationship with her, which is no right or wrong. That's his personal business.
Right.
However, there is that aspect of, okay, within my relationship, is this helping or hindering my parental role, my relationship with my daughter, my interactions with the mother of my child? Not that I'm trying to get with her, no, but the you guys are not in an intimate relationship, but you guys still are in a relationship because you guys
Right.
are
We're
hoping
still a
to
family.
share a
We're
child
a
together.
family because she makes us a family.
Exactly. So there's that being aware of how are these things impacting this and vice versa.
Mhm.
How are my interactions with my ex impacting my current relationship, whether that's a me thing or whether that's something I need to address with my ex related to just in a healthy manner. So those
Yes.
are there's many more, but those are just things that really have to be owned. They have to be accepted for what it is, and then take action. And just know with taking action is not going to always feel comfortable. As an
Mhm.
adult, we can choose to be stuck in our ways, but it don't make it right.
Absolutely. And you know what?
And
So let me tell you, I'm gonna give you something that I had to come to grips with myself. So often we're trying to win, right? And I
yes,
had to
yes,
define what a win was for me. And what I ended up with was it's only a win if Kayla wins. If I win and she loses, it's not a win.
right.
If she wins and I have to take the L, I'm okay with that. That's still a win because at the end of the day, what is going to be the best decision for my daughter? What is going to be
Yes.
that thing that allows her to go forward without seeing her parents arguing, without seeing mental breakdowns, emotional breakdowns, without
Mhm.
I want her to see us communicating. I want us to see, even when she knows that I may be upset, I'm
Sure.
not
Yeah.
smiling to kiss his behind. I am smiling to
Right.
make sure that Kayla wins. That is all I'm thinking. And I remind myself of that. When we were going through child support court, my lawyer said, wear something. Have he brought you anything? And I was like, yeah, he's brought me, a jacket, and there's a TV. She was like, anything you can wear. And I was like, I don't want to wear the jacket, but I have a watch that he gave me. She said, wear the watch. And when I got to court, I was just like, why do I need to wear this watch? She said, because
Hmm.
every time you get mad, I want you to look at that watch as a reminder that both of you made her. And it has to
Oh,
be.
you had some good legal counsel. I
Girl,
think
she was
person's
good.
name.
Portation
Yes,
Ward,
I
honey.
like
I think
that.
she's out of state now. She's not in California. But if you need, if you in the state where Portation Moore law office is, like that's the
But no,
one.
I don't give a pray to God I'm gonna be in that situation. I'm just saying
Well, I'm just saying you as in like whoever listening, right? I'm talking to the listeners. But she was amazing. And that was great advice because when I
Yes,
was mad, girl, honey, I was holding that watch. Like, yeah, I think I ripped the watch off at one point, or it broke it at least. But it was that reminder. I kept my
right.
mouth shut and let her
Yes.
handle it. And I remembered at the end of the day, it's not about if I win, it's about if my daughter wins. And that is what is important to me. I don't have to have the final say. I don't have to let my voice be heard in all situations.
In all things.
Sometimes
Right.
I got to fall back and just allow my daughter to be the winner.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't have an ego around that.
Sure. Not just, yes, sure. And I would say, and on that
Sure.
note, that was a message in itself. So I think we can end it with that. I don't think nothing can top that right there, but that was a great message. And thanks for sharing. Because I think a lot of people needed to hear that.
Absolutely. So listen, y'all, tune in to part 2. So here's the thing. Y'all can send us an email, right? At what's our email, Danielle?
TheRealOnParenting.com.
At Gmail.
See? At Gmail. Clearly, don't ask me. Okay, TheRealOnParenting at gmail.com. I forgot the whole little thing, you're a real part, but yes.
So send us an email if you have a couple of things you want us to address with co-parenting. I feel a series coming on, so there's that.
Yes.
And so we will get into that. Thank you so much for joining us on The Real on Parenting. We will see you next week. Same bat time, same bat channel. You got to be a certain age to know what that means. All right. We'll see you.